I'm Lynn Ann King.
Welcome back.
Yay! Creator of Crushed, Vine to Voice. And we have another really fabulous episode lined up for you today. We're interviewing Tom Rodrigues of Maple Creek Ranch and Wine Estate Vineyard. So, we're going to talk about tended by hand, crafted by heart.
Oh, how lovely.
Can you take us through a day in the vines? What do your hands touch? And what do your eyes scan for? Take it away, Tom.
Oh boy, here we go. Well, good question. It starts in late January, late January, early February. You're checking the vineyard. You let it go dormant after harvest, which means all the leaves fall off. You end up with long brown canes. The plants go to sleep, telling itself it has to wake up and produce every bud that's on that cane. Well, what we do is around March is when we go in and we prune. And you're pruning for 2 years. You're pruning for the year coming, and you're setting yourself up for the following year. So after that plant has to take the memory of all those buds it needs to be producing the next year, you go back and you prune it back to 2 buds per spur. We do cordon pruning, which is the trunk, the arms, spurs, and off the spurs we do 2 buds. Those 2 buds form 2 canes. Each cane produces 2 clusters of fruit. So we start doing that. We start looking at it in late January. We start actually pruning in March in this area because of the later rains. You do not want to prune in the rain. Never prune your vines or your fruit trees in the rain. You could get a disease that if you've ever pruned a plant, fruit tree or vineyard, or even rose bushes, and you cut the stem and you see a little black dot in the middle there, that's a disease that will eventually kill the plants, like cancer. So that comes from the rain. So never do that in the rain. So that starts happening in March and April. And then after that, you have bud break. Bud break is when the buds actually start to form, and from that bud, a whole cane will grow. And this is now June. So May and June, April and May as the bud is growing, it starts flowering. In May, it's a hermaphrodite. It pollinates itself. So you have male and female flowers. Wonderful aroma when you're walking through the vineyard in May. And late May, June, you're suckering. And we have a guy out there, Jose is out there right now, suckering. And what suckering is you're pulling all the new shoots off that aren't where the spurs are. It's excess growth that the plant will put energy into, which you don't want it to. You want it to put energy only into the fruit-growing canes. So that happens until you're done, which could be, in another week or so, we should be finished. And what's happening now is it's the end of flowering, and it's called grape set. So you get these little BBs that are starting to form, which will eventually be individual grapes on a cluster. It's a beautiful sight. If you're ever see a vineyard doing this, it's really exciting to watch. And then probably end of June, you'll have a good view of each flower cluster, which is starting to form the grapes. And you can kind of estimate your crop at that point. As soon as the grapes are set, meaning the BBs are starting to grow larger, you have grape set, and you can look at your plants and estimate your how much crop you'll have. And so that's a pretty good beginning of the season. About July, mid-July to end of July, depending upon where you are. Here in Mendocino, we're a little bit later than Sonoma and Napa. You'll start leafing, especially like on our Chardonnay. Our vines grow north to south, so in southern exposure. So the morning side of the vine is the eastern side. It gets the sun, and the afternoon side gets the morning sun, and the afternoon side gets the afternoon sun, west side. So what we'll do is we'll pull the leaves around the fruit to expose the morning sign to the fruit, and that kisses it. That develops the honey flavors in our Chardonnay, for example. And then we leave the leaves on the sunny side, which is shading the fruit, and that creates the green apple flavors that we get in our Chardonnay. So the morning side's honey, the afternoon side, west side, is shaded and gets more green apple. So when people say that winemaking is 80% farming, I'm a farmer and a winemaker, and I happen to agree. It's 80% farming. You can't make good wine with bad grapes unless you use a lot of additives, which we don't. We make a natural wine here. So that's pretty much the season up until the latter part of August and September. And that's when the plants are, the sugars are developing in the fruit. You're getting your higher temperatures, and you have to protect the fruit from being sunburned. So when you're leafing, you don't want to do too much leafing. You just want to be a little bit around the cluster. So you're checking on that all the time.
So Tom, can you take us through a day in the vines? What do your hands touch, and what do your eyes scan for?
Well, I kind of just explained that in a way, because of the leafing is all touching, the pruning's touching. In a cold season, you will have a big crop load, perhaps. Then you want to start dropping fruit, meaning you're cutting some of the canes off. You're going down to one cluster per shoot, only because it's not gonna, if it's cold during the finished part of the season, which is September, October, then those clusters are going to have a tough time ripening. So if you cut half of them off, or a certain percentage of them off, the vine itself will have enough oomph in it to ripen that one cluster. It reduces your crop, but the quality goes up. And so you're touching all the time. You're always pulling weeds. You're always pulling suckers, because the suckers can come later on too, other than just May and June. So if you've ever seen rose bushes out in a vineyard, which is an interesting thing, it's sort of the canary in the cave, because a rose bush is in the same family as grapevine, and they plant them there not for beauty, but if there's a bug or a fungus like powdery mildew, etc., it's going to attack the rose first. So when you have really long rows in a big vineyard, you can just drive along the edge and look at that rose bush, and it's telling you what's going on back on in the rows of those grapes. So roses are important in a vineyard.
Fascinating. I thought it was for the bee pollination. That's interesting.
No, the grapes pollinate themselves. They
Isn't
don't
that
need
fabulous?
bees. Yeah.
Have you ever had a year where nature taught you a lesson the hard way?
Yes, I did. 2011 here, we got a little wild pig infestation here. In this area in Mendocino County is a large wild pig population. It fluctuates annually. But 50 pigs broke into the vineyard and ate 15 tons of grapes in 2 days, which pretty much wiped me out. But the good news is they're delicious. We harvested a few of those pigs and ended up putting 2 miles of barbed wire underneath the ground, about an inch underground and about 2 inches above the ground, all the way around the 12 acres to keep the pigs out, and we haven't had a pig in there since. So that was quite a while ago. That was the biggest surprise I've had. And I've had trees fall in over the fence, and deer have gotten in when they jump over the fence that is fallen. But those are probably the 2 worst things that have happened. That was an eye-opener. You don't plan on that. It just happens sometimes. It's called nature.
Did you call your friends over for a pig roast?
No, I did. Well, actually, we did. We roasted a couple of those pigs, yeah.
That's a funny story.
Yeah.
What are some things about growing grapes that outsiders never see but matters most?
Well, I think what I suggested about dropping fruit, the people don't see you do that. They would think that's weird that you're cutting fruit off, but that would happen on a cold season. Leafing around the fruit, I don't know if people are aware about that, how it exposes, for Chardonnay, for example, how it brings out on this vineyard the honey flavors versus the green apple. That's another thing that people don't see. planting cover crops. Usually it's done in the early spring or late winter. Then that just kind of feeds. We do it every other row, every other year, and that just feeds the feeding roots in the plant. It all breaks down, gets mowed down, and nitrogen and et cetera gets put into the soil. Tying the vines up, putting the canes behind the wires, things like that. It's vineyard work. You'll be driving down the highway and you'll see guys in the vineyard and wondering what they're doing. Well, that's what they're doing. Things like that. And that's sort of maintenance.
That's great. What has this land taught you about patience and resilience?
Well, I think being a farmer, you have to be patient because you're playing poker with Mother Nature, and she always has a better hand. So patience is key as a farmer, but it's good meditation to be out in the vineyard. I love it. It's you're in nature. You're listening to the birds. That's another issue that can happen too. Is the bird populations come in and they can do some serious damage. In the beginning, I was a little freaked out about the birds, but I figured that they were here first, and I lose about a ton of grapes to the birds every year. So they get their share, and we have an owl box in the vineyard that helps keep the bird population at bay. And we use natural predators.
Owls eat mice.
Well, yeah, but they scare the other birds. It's a big bird.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you so much,
You're
Tom.
welcome.
That was quite the education on farming and grapes, and no wonder your Artavino Chardonnay is so incredible. It's my absolute favorite.
Thank
Can't
you.
wait to have some tonight.
Well, that's it. Thank you. And it is interesting about what you do in the vineyard to create those flavors. And sun exposure kisses the fruit in the morning and gives you those nice honey, delicious flavors in our Winty Clone Chardonnay.
I love it. I love it. Our next episode is gonna be all about the barrel room. So stay tuned for episode 3. Thank you so much for tuning in to Crushed Vine to Voice and an interview with Tom Rodrigues.
See you next time. Cheers.